Karoline Leavitt's latest White House press briefing turned into one of the most challenging sessions I've seen her face. This time, reporters asked tougher questions, pushed back on her statements, and pressed her on serious concerns about transparency and accountability within the administration. The exchange became so tense that she ended the briefing abruptly. In this video, we'll break down exactly what happened, step by step. But before we get started, if you find value in our content, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel. It really helps us continue bringing you important updates. Now, before we get to the moment that seemed to send Leavitt out the door, we need to look at an earlier exchange where she faced pointed questions about former President Donald Trump's health.
Last month, you guys announced the president was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency after his legs were seen swelling. How's he being treated for that? And while you were upfront about those health issues, curious if the White House would be willing to let us speak with his physician directly about those health issues. I know there were a lot of concerns about the last White House not making the physician available. Would the physician be available in this case?
I don't want to make that commitment on behalf of the physician, but it's certainly something we can look into and explore out of the effort of transparency, because unlike the previous White House, there is nothing to hide. You guys see this president working around the clock, literally 24/7, all of the time, and I will be happy to look into that request.
Can we at least get an update on how he's being treated for the swelling legs and for the hands and the other issues?
Look, you see the president every day. He's moving, he's working, he's continuing. There have been no adjustments made to his lifestyle.
Calling the Trump administration the most transparent in history while refusing to share details about his health is a clear contradiction. True transparency requires honesty, not selective answers. For once, major outlets pushed back, challenging the administration on high-profile controversies and even questioning the recent jobs report during a tense exchange.
Statistics continue to put out monthly jobs reports?
Well, look, what I'll tell you about the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I believe that is the plan and that's the hope, and that these monthly reports will be data that the American people can trust. As you know, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has made massive revisions after the last several reports that they have put out. And there has certainly been a decline in the quality and the reliability of data coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and there's been an increase in revisions. And this president and the administration is finally tackling this problem that so many have talked about, and the president is actually doing something about it. We need to restore new leadership that we can trust. As you know, the president has appointed someone new to take over the BLS, and so we need to look at the means and the methods of how the United States is acquiring this very important data, and all of that is going to be done, and the goal, of course, is to provide honest and good data for the American people to make very important economic decisions on.
One major theme of the Trump administration that often gets overlooked is its ongoing effort to reshape history. A recent report claims that even Smithsonian exhibits may need to be reviewed by Trump's team before public display, ensuring they match his version of America's past. This follows earlier moves like removing impeachment references from exhibits and issuing mass pardons that critics say rewrote one of the darkest days of his presidency. Now, similar tactics appear in his handling of economic data, which paints an unflattering picture. It's not just about numbers. Policies like his large-scale deportation plan are causing real harm to families and communities, and that's exactly what sparked tough questions for Karoline Leavitt, leading to her quick exit.
Yes.
There are a lot of reports that ICE agents detained a 15-year-old student with disabilities outside an LA high school, even leaving bullets on the sidewalk. How does the Trump administration plan to ensure parents that their children can return to school without fear of being wrongfully detained or endangered by federal agents?
Where'd you see that report?
LA Times.
Okay, well, I'll have to look into the veracity of that report. I read the LA Times almost every single day, and they are notorious for misleading the public. I'm sure there's more to that story than the way that you just characterized it. This administration wants to ensure that all school children across the country in every city, from Los Angeles to DC, can go to school safely. And that's part of this administration's effort to federalize the National Guard in Washington, to ensure that ICE is removing child predators. I just read you a list of a handful, just a handful, of the hundreds of thousands of child predators that this administration is removing off of the streets of Los Angeles and every other community across this country, because we want to ensure this is a country where American school children can be safe, where they can prosper, and where they are not threatened by violent criminals, whether they are illegal or whether they are American citizen homegrown criminals, as this president calls them. So I will gladly go check on that report, and I'll get you the facts. Thank you, Karoline.
Really, Karoline? First, it's the story isn't true, then the outlet is biased, and when pressed, you just walk away. It's the same pattern. Deflect, attack, and retreat instead of giving real answers. All while claiming to stand for family values, yet facing criticism for actions hurting vulnerable communities. Even when reporters pushed back today, Leavitt's responses stayed dismissive and evasive.
On something that happened yesterday, but I wanted to get the White House response. A judge ruled that the grand jury transcripts in Ghislaine Maxwell's case should not be released. What's the White House response to that? And do you plan to appeal? And what do you tell President Trump supporters who want that information released?
We think that decision is unfortunate. Of course, we moved to unseal that information because the president has said he wants to see credible evidence released. As for the appeal process, I would defer you to the Department of Justice for that.
Now, I'll critique the media when it's deserved. But today wasn't one of those times. Karoline Leavitt said she and Trump are disappointed they can't get the grand jury transcripts from the Ghislaine Maxwell case. But the fact is, those Epstein files already exist, and access isn't the real barrier here. Since when does Donald Trump suddenly defer to judges and claim the rule of law matters? This is the same administration that lashes out when court rulings go against them. Using legal process as an excuse here feels like another cover-up. Just like the weak defense Leavitt tried offering moments later.
The president said at the podium yesterday twice that he was planning to go to Russia. Was that a verbal slip-up, or does he actually plan to go to Russia?
Perhaps there are plans in the future to travel to Russia, and on Friday the president will be meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as you know. Phil.
This is the kind of over-the-top spin you'd expect in state-run propaganda. Yes, Karoline Leavitt often defends Trump, but to brush off what looked like a clear slip or even a sign of decline as nothing, and then praise a mystery trip we know nothing about, shows just how deep the loyalty runs. It's a full-on cult-like devotion that ignores reality. When asked again about this meeting, Leavitt's answer didn't improve.
Caroline, regarding the President Trump summit on Friday, why not invite Ukrainian President Zelensky to that summit? I know the president said yesterday that he's planning to speak with him right after the summit and even before, but why not invite Zelensky, and whose decision was it to not invite him? Was it the president, or was it President Putin?
Well, this meeting came about because the president of Russia asked the president of the United States to meet through his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who, as you all know, traveled to Russia to have a conversation with Putin at his request. And so the president is agreeing to this meeting at the request of President Putin. And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. And the president said at this podium yesterday, when he joined all of you in the room, that he hopes in the future there can be a trilateral meeting with these three leaders to finally bring this conflict to an end. But this administration has really used every lever, has taken every measure to achieve peace through a diplomatic solution. And I think the President of the United States getting in the room with the President of Russia, sitting face to face rather than speaking over the telephone, will give this president the best indication of how to end this war and where this is headed.
Why not invite Zelensky? Simple. They have no real reason. Most of their actions have no justification, and they know it. Honestly, I doubt they feel great looking in the mirror each morning. And yes, I'll say it. Stephen Miller's suits still don't fit. I could make a whole channel about that alone. Maybe some would unsubscribe, but I'd still do it. It's me, Gavin Newsom, and anyone else willing to call it out. And speaking of questionable choices, guess who was actually let into that press briefing? Benny Johnson.
And as always, we'll start with our new media seat, who is our podcast host today, Benny Johnson. Benny, why don't you kick us off, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Karoline. As a DC resident of 15 years, I lived on Capitol Hill. I witnessed so many muggings and so much theft. I lost track. I was carjacked. I have murders on my Ring camera and mass shootings. I witnessed a woman on my block get held up at gunpoint for $20, and my house was set ablaze in an arson with my infant child inside. And so to any reporter that says and lies that DC is a safe place to live and work, let me just say this. Thank you. Thank you for making the city safe, because no parent should have to go through what my family went through, having the fire department rip open their door to save their infant child. And so thank you for your work on securing this city. My question to you is this. Nancy Pelosi has attacked the president for deploying the National Guard to the city, saying that it is to cover for his incompetence. Hillary Clinton has also attacked the president for securing the city of Washington, D.C. I'd like to get your response to Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton.
Sure. Well, first of all, Benny, I'm so sorry that happened to you and your family. There have been, unfortunately, far too many victims of crime in this city, and I know the majority of residents in the District of Columbia agree with you. In fact, a new poll from the Washington Post I was reading this morning, this was released in May of 2024, so it's quite funny how many of you in the media agreed with what the president was saying yesterday, but now once the president says it, many of you are disagreeing with him. But this poll released by the Washington Post found that 65% of district residents think crime is an extremely serious or a very serious problem, and this was up from 56% last year. So
Benny Johnson is an AI-driven clickbait personality pretending to be a journalist, so seeing him in that room was no surprise. It just proves that when Republicans complain about liberal media, it's pure nonsense. We'll keep calling that out here. If you support that, hit subscribe, leave a like, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.